היה לו לב טוב, עין טובה, מחשבה טובה והרבה הרבה שמחה. הרבה 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 שמחה. התבוננת על מקומו ועוד מעט ואין רשע.
Shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Yishai Fleisher Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world. You're a part of it, wherever you are. Today's show is season 2022, episode 4. And welcome to Masha Fleisher.
Hello.
Shalom.
I'm using my Russian accent because here we are in Siberia.
That's right, because it
Israel.
It is ensconced in snow, are we?
We got a good snow.
We got a great snow, and right now the kids are on a full-on snow day.
Yeah, we did. Okay, so we did a lot of things. First, the parents had to go out in the snow. As I recall, my parents barely ever went out with me whenever I had snow as a child. They just sent you outside, and you have to go out in the snow.
Right.
But now, in this generation, the parents have to also go out.
Right.
So we went out in the snow. We did some serious snowballing. Got out some,
I don't know if you understand.
Corona-era aggression.
In our family, like it's a half an hour at least of like whipping snowballs at one another out there.
Yeah, at least.
And Leia's developed this new technique of these giant snowballs where she like just walks up to you while you don't even notice it with this thing, and it just like
snow patch.
Yeah, and then you also whipped me in the face quite a few times.
Yeah, I was very happy with my aim yesterday.
Yes.
That's the truth.
Yes,
I was feeling really good about that. I felt worthy.
Yes, you're quite wily.
Thanks, and it was fun. And then you actually don't get so cold because you're running around.
Right.
And that's really fun. And the whole country, of course, was caught up in the prediction game. Is it going to snow? Is it not going to snow?
Right.
Google said no snow.
Right. Google / our friend has Alexa in their house.
Yeah, I think
don't
the
have
man
Alexa in
doesn't
my
want
house.
us to have any fun.
But the truth is that what people kind of don't know is that since this country is very small, yet at the same time has very different climate regions, we here in Gush Etzion really do get some serious snow. We actually get real snow. And so what happened is that like Jerusalem, they got snow. And other places, they got some snow, but they got like a dusting, and it's a little bit of fun. It's just like a centimeter. Here, we're talking about 4 inches of 4 or 5 inches of real snow.
We got inches of snow.
And
it was
still
really
out
fun.
there.
It's still out there.
Right
Although
now.
I was happy for Yerushalayim. Because Yerushalayim didn't have to get any snow, and Yerushalayim also got snow.
Right.
But it's funny because from here you can like see Yerushalayim basically, and it's like right there. And yet here we get snow, and there they don't necessarily get snow.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have a whole system of things that we have to do.
We are at 1,000 meters plus. We're the high mountains.
Is that true? No, we're not 1,000 meters.
Yeah,
I think we're 900 something.
It's like 998, that type of thing. It's like that's basically the 1,000 meter club is here. Okay, the mile high club.
Yeah,
the kilometer high club, and so we're up in the mountains here. And you love being a mountain Jew, am I right?
Yeah, I like the weather. I like the weather out here. I
Yeah.
like the cool, clear air. I like that it's like colder than other places.
Your skin is looking very good right now. Malkah.
Is it?
Because you've been.
I think it's the reflection off the snow. It's the white.
No, I actually
of
think
me and the snow.
Oh, is that it? No, I think it's getting whipped in the face. With
with
snowballs.
the snowballs, it's very bracing.
It is, and then
for the skin.
And also, what's the other word that they use when you clean your skin?
Soapy?
No, evaporating.
Oh,
exfoliating.
That was very good.
Yeah. So
good job with the beauty terms.
Yeah.
So we had a few things that we have to do for snow day. I was prepared because the Israeli weather forecasters have been talking for like a week and a half about the possibility of snow. And of course, Google and Alexa trying to trample all of our fun with not predicting any snow. But I did go out and get the most important Israeli candy bar called Mekupelet. In England, they have a similar candy bar. It's called Flake.
Mm.
And it's a good kind of crunchy, crumbly chocolate bar.
It's like a twisted. Imagine if chocolate grew like a root.
Yeah, it's like a tree bark.
It's like it's a
chocolate.
Twisted milk chocolate, and it lends itself very much to enshokament.
Making.
It becomes a good chocolate.
Yeah,
milk.
it's a good hot cocoa.
Right. It's like It's soft.
So I got the marshmallows. I got the chocolate.
Uh-huh.
And the kids, they are very grateful for the cocoa. They look forward to it every year. But at the same time, it's gotten to a place where they kind of expect it every year. So they give you the face that's like, are you going to be a good parent? or
Well,
am I in an orphanage?
That's because you are partially a spoiler.
Maybe I spoiled it. I like to make little traditions, but then when you make traditions, you become beholden to them also, because that's what a tradition is.
Right.
So it works both ways. Like on the other hand, they were like so happy, right? Because yet another year, and here comes. I only make it when it snows. Like rain does not count. No cocoa.
No, in the rain.
Unless faux snow. Okay,
Yeah, that's right.
That's like how you get the cocoa.
Yeah.
So I made the cocoa. They were so happy.
I forgot to mention that when you were throwing the snowballs yesterday with such accuracy, you also had this like American Indian yell that
it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was like, la, 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 la. I thought I was getting scalped, and that's why we called you Snokahontas. Okay, and it was quite.
Well, you were the last of the Snowhikins.
Yeah. Yes, Dancing with Snow. Anyway, so it was pretty intense. But yeah, you've created these snow traditions.
I also made pancakes this morning.
But that's the thing about living in Gush Etzion is that you actually get snow.
Right, I love that. I do love that.
That is,
and
like
we've had two big snows in a row. Like last year, we also had a big snow.
Yeah.
That stuff is unusual. So that's really cool. Maybe it is the climate change.
Whatever. Anyway, I think snow has been falling here forever. I think in the winter. Okay. Anyway,
that is, our commentary is so good today.
Yeah, we're sharp like a snowball.
I think we ate ravioli also for lunch, so we're all carved out.
That was a mistake. I'm completely asleep.
But anyway, we're having a good time out here. Kids of all ages are getting to enjoy a little bit of a snow treat. It's been a little bit of a hard few weeks here in Israel, of course, because of like all the COVID ups and downs, and there's like still just so much talk about what kind of restrictions there will be and there will not be, and people different people are worried about different things. Some people are worried about becoming sick, and some people are not at all worried about becoming sick, but they're concerned about their personal freedoms being trampled.
And we were sick last week.
We were sick. We had the Rona.
And I've only lost like 10 IQ points really from that. So I'm really okay.
You did not have 10 IQ points to spare.
That is
catastrophic.
Yeah. No, it's not catastrophic. Life is just simpler. That's all. I'm less able to be concerned.
But truthfully, Yishai, Baruch Hashem, we were very blessed. I really feel we were like we can kind of gristle and moan about the little like things that we suffered as a result of COVID, but the truth is that we did COVID.
Right.
And, people were waiting 2 years in terror about like what's going to happen to them if this thing happens to them. And then we just went through COVID, and all you had to pay was 10 measly little IQ points. You got so many, Yishai. What is that even? You can't even feel it.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it. I feel definitely a little bit dumber, but I'm also happy to be alive. And that's it. So COVID was last week. I also managed in the last few weeks to have really irked the global anti-Israel lefties, plus the inner what do you want to call them? Like our inner Jewish inside Israel and inner Jewish appeasers and all that. I've managed to irk them twice. So I had the whole tutu thing.
Yes, the Desmond Tutu, and you had your article published in Makor Rishon, big Israeli newspaper.
Right. So I tweeted against tutu, and I wrote a big article, and it got published inside one of the most important newspapers in Israel, which is called Makor Rishon, which was really fun for me, and it just popped up on the internet as well. And I'll be sending out, if anybody wants to read a Hebrew article, I'll send it out in my email. But on Twitter, I wrote against Tutu, so like the whole world, the whole like lefty world, who couldn't believe that like Saint Tutu was to be even if I could even speak the word Tutu without falling down.
And what a great, incredible, righteous tzaddik he was,
and just explaining who he really was, and not only explaining who he was in terms of plain anti-Semitism, but my article really focused on the more sophisticated anti-Semitism, which was his ability to place onto Israel to tag.
Impose.
What's that? Impose. See the IQ thing.
Superimpose.
Yeah, that's not the right word either. See the IQ thing.
The IQ. Plus, it's very dark here now because it looks like it wants to some kind of precipitate.
Yeah.
again. So maybe it'll slush, or maybe it'll snow, or maybe it'll just rain.
Right, but instead of saying,
and then we're full of the carbs and the corona.
That's right. So, but what tutu was impued a.
I don't know if impugn is a word.
I think it is a word.
Imbue?
No,
impugn.
Impugn.
Is that the word you want?
I think so. I hope so. Anyway, he was able to stick on to us a new brand, a new image, which is the apartheid image. And since he himself was a fighter of apartheid, it came to him very naturally. But he was able to parlay his experience and stick onto us this image of Israel as a foreigner, white, colonialist. The other word is supremacist that they throw out there a lot. And so I did that. So I wrote this stuff and I pointed out what was his great anti-Semitism. So that got the ire of a lot of folks. Then I had that debate with
Amr Zahar.
And that was all about pulling out what the anti-Semitism.
You were pushing back against a comedian, basically, like a liked person.
Right, like a comedian who's a liked person and a lawyer, but a guy who is doing a great job of blackening Israel's good name.
Right, and a very, very open anti-Zionist.
Right.
Who is against the concept of a Jewish state.
Right. And then this week, just to add a little bit more, to have a little bit more fun with folks out there, there was this video that came out about Israeli Jewish so-called settlers, hilltop people, responding to these what seemed to be these just Arabs, Palestinians coming out to plant.
That was the marketing,
right? The marketing
on their indigenous
right,
land,
and there was on their land, and there was like rabbis for human rights and that kind of thing. There were a group of people there, and suddenly you see this like swarm of like scary looking Jews coming down after mountain with sticks, whacking people, and then having a bag of gasoline, pouring it on a car and lighting it a fire. Okay, and like the world was like, see, settler violence is just absolutely reprehensible. And then
so of course
which is fine, but then you had the Hasbara people,
right, who are like these are not us,
right? This is not what we represent. And I was like, look, I was not defending the violence per se. At no point did I defend the violence per se. But what I said was like, just take it in context. Understand what's going on around here. First thing,
do you know what the actual story is? The video was submitted to the news people by the left-wing organizations.
Right. So that's the first thing, is that the people who are presenting you this video are people...
A clip. There
are people who very much want to blacken our name.
People who have editing capabilities also.
Right. Okay, so that's one.
It's their clip.
And second thing is that what they're not showing you more than anything, first, we don't even know who the identities of these people are exactly or what's going on there. So before you even jump to conclusions, just hold off. And before you need to, and this is where I got a little more aggressive, as I said, before you need to do your virtue signaling to be like, no, that's not us. We're against that. We're more moral than that. I'm like, do you know what the situation is out there? There is daily terror, encroachment, land theft, bullying. It's happening all over the country. It's happening in the Negev with land takeover. It's happening to Jewish farmers who are paying protection money to Bedouins. It's happening with mafia money. It's happening to lefty groups that are every day going onto to Jewish land, scaring families. I myself, just to be shvat, planted plants, and the next day they were all uprooted,
ripped out of the ground.
So, and I'm talking here. The bottom line is that these people are facing a daily aggression and provocation, because part of what the result movie was a hoped for response, so that it could be captured on video, so that they could be a global media campaign to besmirch the name of the so-called settlers by calling them violent settler violence. And you had immediately the reaction of some of our progressive Knesset members and ministers speaking against the Jews of Judea and Samaria, right? And so the point was that this was all highly orchestrated, and all I said was, I'm not going to be part of it. I didn't say that I was pro the violence. I didn't say that. I said
You're not going to step in to talk about how bad they are.
Right, I'm not going to step in. And also, I am going to remind people about the heroic nature of these people in this generation to hold on to these hilltops, to push back on Palestinian terrorism, to push back on the left. And I'm going to be like, that is what I know about this thing. And everybody's like, you're just as bad as them and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, there is Jewish people holding on to Jewish land, and there's terrorism that's trying to get rid of them.
Also, I think especially in the English-speaking world, you have a lot of people who are really locked into the English-speaking media. And the English-speaking media, you have Times of Israel, Haaretz. These are really high-quality news organizations that are just running with stories, and they do features and all that stuff. And the world of English-speaking media out of Israel is such that you end up being exposed to a lot of the left-leaning stuff, even more than the right-leaning stuff.
I think you're unnecessarily saying it too softly. Times of Israel and Haaretz are hard left news reporting organizations.
But I'm saying, and they also manage to
not hard left, quite left.
No, Haaretz is harder left than Times of Israel.
That's why Times of Israel is worse. Because they are
I don't know
why they are worse, because they present a left slant. When I say left, these words are meaningless. They present an anti-Judean Samaria slant, and they present as though Palestinians have more rights and are constantly under attack. That business,
right? But that's not really what I wanted to. That's not the point I really wanted to make. The point I really wanted to make is that they don't exactly report on the problems Jews are having. Meaning to say, they'll end up reporting on what Palestinians will come to them with and complain about, and then they'll report that. But the Jewish issues that are going on in Israel, the security issues, they somehow don't exactly make it to the news on the same level.
Right.
And so you can't really get the information. And so you have these influencer types, these Hasbara types in English who have 25,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 followers on Facebook, on Twitter, and they're reading a few handful of English-speaking media, and that's where they get their news. For example, Yishai, did you know?
Wait, there's one more point, which is a lot of these Anglo influencers
don't
really know.
They don't know what's going on. That's what I'm saying.
Samaria
It's not even a some kind of traitorness or something where they don't support their own. It's not even that necessarily. It's that they literally don't know. And then they oftentimes don't even live in Judea and Samaria themselves. They live in very centralized places, and they're just not exposed. For example, Yishai, I don't know if you know, but one of the people that you in some ways kind of admire, Yoav Gallant, who was a big army hero kind of in Israel.
He was the head of the Naval Special Forces Frogman unit for many years, and just was involved in almost all the seafaring anti-terror operations.
Right. So politically, we don't always see eye to eye with him, but he definitely had skin in the game when it comes to Israeli security. And he just gave a speech recently, and he basically, I'll boil it all down to this. He's like, we're about to lose control in the Negev. We have a Bedouin situation. It flared up with this Tu B'Shvat, Karen Kayemet L'Yisrael tree planting thing, where Karen Kayemet L'Yisrael, the Jewish National Fund, wanted to come and plant some trees in the Negev for Tu B'Shvat, which is our New Year of the Trees we just had. And the Bedouin nation down there just flipped out, and they were like, this is our land and you can't plant your trees here, and this is a political provocation, and this is you trying to Judaize the Negev,
right? And
this is not your place, this is our place. And there was rioting and all kinds of violence. In the meantime, for years and years and years, the army apparatus in the Negev has dealt with just bold-faced theft and black market, all kinds of darkness that's going on in the Negev, trading in IDF gear that they steal, all kinds of crazy stuff that's going on down there. And basically, he's like, we're about to lose control.
They're using army lands, firing ranges,
right,
as places to grow illegal drugs.
It's just so crazy pants. So when you talk about what's going on in the hilltops, you can't divest it from what's going on in the Negev. There is a situation, there's a general security situation in Israel where the security people are made to feel that they cannot do security things, that it will just cause political flare-ups. So the political people are controlling the security people, and the security people can't do what they need to do. And so a lot of things just like run amok. And so you have these like hilltops people. Now, I didn't see, like, I saw the little clip of the little video, but like the larger context, I don't know. I really don't know how it came to be that these people felt the need to conduct violence. Maybe it's justified, maybe it's not justified. I don't know. But you have this brand of people that's like, look, no one's coming to help us. And we live on these hilltops. We do it out of ideology, and we are ready to like put ourselves and our kids on the line. We're ready to live uncomfortably in order to hold on to these little places in the land of Israel in hopes that they will grow a little bit, grow a little bit, grow a little bit, become bigger places in the land of Israel. And this will help the cause of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. Right. And that is like real Zionism.
That's right.
So you have these people who are like, listen, we're actually real Zionists. Plus we're kind of angry. We're angry at the security apparatus for being lame. We're angry at the Arabs for daring to like threaten us here in our own land. And we're just not going to stand for it. So they come out with their own sticks, right? And this became an issue also some months ago in Lod, right? Where people in Lod and in Akko were dealing with violence in the streets, being threatened by their neighbors. And they came out with their own defense.
Well, I'm glad
and
you
they're
mentioned...
like, we have to defend ourselves because we don't want to die.
I'm glad you mentioned Lod.
We want to live, and we don't want to give up Lod, and we don't want to give up Akko, and we believe in Zionism. We're going to stay here out of our own personal interest and out of our patriotism and out of our faith also. And then those people were also, there was a major question mark hanging over the country. Is this good? Is this bad? Should people be defending themselves, or do you leave this to law enforcement? You know, leave it to the police to conduct security. In the meantime, police running out, like literally running away from dangerous security situations. Partially because they're not taught to be brave anymore, and partially because they're taught that if they will do something ever so slightly wrong, they will end up in jail. And people don't want to go to jail.
Yes. And
Jews have lives to live. They have children to raise, and they don't want to sit in jail.
And there's also plain corruption, which is sometimes when you have mob bosses in those kind of cities that can buy out police force. Anyway, bottom line is, I want to move on, Malkah. Bottom line is that what I did on Twitter, thank you for backing me up, was just to be like, hey, look at the bigger picture.
Right.
As what you're pointing out to.
Right. And if these people were just being thugs, then no one's allowed to just be a thug. But we don't know.
Well, it's more than we don't know. We know what they're... no, let's be real. They are facing this daily attack, incursion, terrorism, fear-mongering, bullying. And that
land
is what...
theft.
Land theft. And we are facing that on a big scale here in Israel. And in fact... these folks, even if they committed this violence, are the heroes, the brave ones, the strong ones, the ones that are holding on to the land for all of us in a time where our country is acting a bit sissy-ish, right? In any case, so that's how I got the... that was a lot of fun. So 2 weeks in a row, I got to be like one of the most hated people.
That's so weird.
I know. It was...
I don't think of you as...
Well, that's my
You're not really so extreme.
Exactly. A, I'm not so extreme, and B, I'm also quite lovable.
But
really.
I'm saying people try to make
Malkah,
it out to
I said I'm quite lovable.
Yes,
really.
you sure are,
Okay,
Yishai.
Okay. Remember,
but I'm saying,
Malkah,
like,
this
it's
is a
not
family
right
show. We
that
gotta
people
keep it light here,
try to like make your views out to be some kind of extremist views. It's not. It's such a nasty label. It's such a gaslighting.
Labeling. That was going. That's the word I was looking for before instead of impugn. Just label. That would have been fine. Anyway, let's go on, sweetheart.
But it's not. I'm sorry. I'm not happy with this. Like, to label strong Zionism as extremism is so destructive.
We should write that on Twitter, by the way. Labeling strong Zionism as
extremism
and supremacism is, but they're doing it on purpose. And in fact, in the next half of the show, we're going to have Masha Merkulova from Club Z talking about how to address these libels when talking with the next generation and bring up a next generation of young Zionists. That's going to be a lot of fun. Club Z is up next. Before we go to that, I want to thank all the folks that make this show happen. First amongst them is the Israel Bible, which is a really neat product. The Israel Bible, neat. If you think the Bible is good, then it's delivered to you with a beautiful cover, a book that you could put on your shelf, and everybody will be like, what is that? At the same time, with great English, great Hebrew font, transliterated parts, and commentaries specifically about the land of Israel, edited together by the great Rabbi Tully Weiss. Great stuff, part of the Israel 365 family. Go to the Israel Bible, and put on coupon code Yishai, because I have made it to the point in my life that I could get you a coupon to buy a Bible. Okay, there you go. And so I'm very happy about that. TheIsraelBible.com, and then put on coupon code Yishai, get 10% off. Thank God for that, and thank you for sponsoring the show. And then our good friends at Prohibition Pickle, who are very soon
brought you the salami.
That's right. What happened is that on last week's show, in an emotional outburst, I said, if only my friend Chaim would come with some Prohibition Pickle and bring some salami and vodka. Knock, knock, knock.
Yeah, unbelievable. What a tzaddik.
There he was, and he brought, not only did he bring salami, which was great.
Shaped like a rose.
Yeah, shaped salami, man. I mean, salami by any other name. You know what I mean? And it was just, it was fabulous. But he also brought a small bottle of vodka, the kind
so
that...
So nice, little Smirnoff.
Yeah, shaped like
that was such a nice touch.
There was a nice touch, and it really
little mustard.
Yeah, it actually made
the spot.
It made the Shabbos. It made the Shabbos. Here comes some of our kids from
coming
the outside.
Out of the slush.
Why are they so?
I think it rained.
It's barrading out there. Okay, that means it's. Oh my God, Malkah, they are totally soaked. I've never seen this.
One of them wears glasses, but I can't see his eyes because he's all fogged
up. Okay, that's awesome. So the show is sponsored by Prohibition Pickle. It's sponsored by the Israel Bible. Also, JewishPress.com puts out our show. It puts out a lot of... They're one of the only English language and news media outlets that's writing about the violence that Jews face. That's
right.
JewishPress.com.
So good. What an important perspective they purvey in their news.
That's right. Purvey?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you could use it that way. But
why?
okay. I don't know. But it's the IQ thing again.
Yeah, our words are not.
Yeah. Blah,
there.
blah, blah.
I like
Coke. I like Coke. I like Diet Coke. Okay. And so that was, of course, famous George W. Bush quote. And then also I want to thank Yocheved Seidman, Moshe Herman, Ben Bresky, Tabitha, and Lou for helping make the show happen. And, of course, I want to thank the Hebron Fund for protecting the Jewish community of Hebron by strengthening it. When you support the Hebron Fund, you are actually supporting the land that Abraham purchased, the land of Avraham Avinu, and also pushing out the message of the forefathers and mothers. So there's a lot of folks that are part of our great show, and you're part of our great show. Please write me an email. And I want to thank some more folks that have, in the last few days, bought me a cup of coffee. And Gabor bought me 5 cups of coffee and wrote, "Hi, Yishai, listened to your podcast yesterday and heard about you and Malkah going through Omicron. May the Almighty keep you guys safe and hope to see you and get well soon. Shalom from Norway."
Wow.
I got a coffee from Norway. That is so cool.
Very
and
nice.
When there are Norwegians who love Israel, that just makes me feel so good. I love all people who love Israel. I have a very simple rule, by the way. Love those who love you. Okay, it's actually like a biblical commandment that's not written in the Bible,
nice.
Which is try to love people. Like, if you want to know who to love the people who love you. I know it sounds very, very trite, but I've actually learned that that's very important in this world.
That's nice.
And so, but especially from places that generally hate you, like Norway, and then you have Gabor here sending shalom from Norway.
Great people all over the world,
certainly
Yishai, and you cannot pigeonhole.
No, you cannot. Absolutely.
You cannot.
We have friends in Ireland. We have friends in Norway.
All over the place.
We have friends in every place.
Saudi friends,
That's
Emirati
right.
friends,
Indian
friends, and
Palestinian
Pakistani friends.
That's right.
Palestinian friends.
Absolutely. I've got
Lebanese friends,
I've got
Syrian
a friend,
friends, Egyptian friends.
I've got a Palestinian
Jordanian
friend
friends.
who works for the Chevron Waqf, the Islamic Trust, and he's on our side.
Well,
and
you never know.
And the guy you would never be able to tell. I can't say anymore because it could.
You don't want anyone to be endangered.
All right, folks. So here is Masha from Club Z explaining not only why Jews, we have to teach the next generation of strong Jews, but also the influence of Russian Jews on creating a narrative for young American Jews. Here we go. Actually, before that, let me let you go, Malkah, and wish you a Shabbat Shalom.
Yes,
Thank you so much for
Shabbat
joining
Shalom.
me.
And it was fun throwing snowballs right in your face.
That's right.
And thank God we're feeling better from COVID. Everybody else should feel better from COVID. And Baruch Hashem that our kids can go back to school. And hopefully everyone's kids will go back to school without restrictions and without fear of any kind of plagues hitting them or bullying or anything bad happening to their kids. And hopefully it'll just be a nice winter for everybody and we'll all be happy and healthy.
Right. Malkah, thank you very much, and thank you for being part of the show. Right now, Masha from Club Z, and then afterwards, Table Torah with me, talking about parsha Mishpatim, with fabulous and interesting things that the Torah tells us about how to live our life and God's recipe for eternity. That's what it is, God's recipe for eternity. Yishai Fleisher, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. All right, folks, Yishai Fleisher here, and we are live broadcasting from Judea. Sorry about my voice a little bit, but that's just because I've been playing out in the snow with the family. It is mucho snowing here in Judea, which is just awesome. It's a gift from Hashem. It feels amazing out there. And my kids and I and Malkah were, Malkah especially, she was lobbing these snowballs right in my face, and I don't know where she got the I don't know. She was yelling this like Indian yell as she was throwing them, like la 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 la. So I called her Snowkahantas because she was really very effective in her warlike snowballs. But for us here in Judea, it's very special to feel this feeling of the snow. It comes maybe once or twice a year, and it's going to be snowing all night, and the kids are just excited. It's just a big deal around here. You know, Israel is a sunny country. It's a Middle Eastern country. But up here in these 1,000 meters above sea level, we get once or twice a year of snow. And it's also very good for the certain plants that grow here, including the olives and the grapes. And that's why some of the wines from these regions of Samaria, Judea and Samaria, are some of the best. And to us, a snow event in Judea is very much part of the story of the Jewish people returning to the land of Israel and living with the wonders of this land, its challenges, the beauty of the state of Israel, and the less than beauty of the state of Israel. It's all part of it. And sometimes the snow itself is this thing that puts a white coating on everything, and you're like, I could see God's grace. I could see the beauty. I look past things, and the cold also gives you kind of a rebirth. And for us, all of these things is organic and just an organic part of Zionism. And the life in the land of Israel, and we're just living it. But when you're out there outside of the land of Israel, and you're in high school, on campus, you could very well be you'll never see the snow of Judea, in the sense that you're never seeing the beauty of these things. You're constantly told that your country, Israel, is a bad country. Now, what does that do to a Jewish kid? What does that do to a Jewish kid when he's told over and over again that his country is a thief and an occupier and a colonialist? I mean, not only does it make you feel like your homeland is not a good one, it makes you doubt something about the whole of your identity. Because if the country that represents you is not good, then either you want to distance yourself from that country, and you certainly don't want to associate yourself with the country's name, which is the name of your peoplehood, like Israel or Judea. That's like, so you don't really want to be Jewish or Israeli. And that contentious word Zionist, that word Zionist is used by the enemies of Israel as a bludgeon. It's like a bad word. It's like equal to colonialist, that kind of thing. And of course, for us, the word Zionism is the most beautiful word in the world. It means the return to Zion, the building of Zion, the building of Jerusalem. It's a biblical sweet name for Yerushalayim. It's a kind of what's the word? Shem Chiba, we say in Hebrew, like an affectionate name, Zion. So we all know more or less that these problems exist, but sometimes there are people who take it upon themselves to fight for these truths. and say enough is enough. A lot of us all are like, "Ush, this is bad. This is really bad." And then there's a few people amongst us who are like, "Yeah, this is bad, but this has got to be fought." And my friend Masha is the founder of Club Z, which is Zionism for Teens. Listen to these words: Zionism for Teens. These are not simple words at all. Zionism for Teens in North America, not just, but that's mainly where it's touching young lives. It started in. I'm going to say another thing. I'm going to say Zionism for Teens in the San Francisco Bay Area in Northern California. This is the heart of anti-Israelism. This is the heart of progressive thinking, which is so anathema to Jewish rights in Judea and to the word Zionism. And yet exactly in this tough spot is where Masha and a dedicated team of people started Club Z, and now it's a national organization that just had a phenomenal conference in Florida with some of Israel's top speakers and pro-Israel speakers. And so the fight is being fought, and I'm very, very pleased to have Masha Merkulova with us right now. Shalom.
Shalom, Yishai. Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful to see you. Really.
Yes, it's great. It's great to be with you here. It's fun. And I just want to say that my producer, Lou, says it's only raining in Modi'in, but he says we look good and sound good. And Lou, I'd love you to give me a sound check for Masha as well. And we are live. Masha, I want to say to you, you are doing such great work. My introduction was so, what I really wanted to say is that and how courageous it has been of you to start Club Z. Why don't we just start first with this word Zionism? Like in some circles, boy, that's like a bad word. And yet you choose very much to use this word when dealing with the teens that you engage with. Tell me about that.
Well, listen, I mean, that's sort of like how do you treat something? You can't address something if you cannot name it. Club Z stands for Zionism. I wanted to be right there in the name, and I wanted the teens to understand, right? This big part of what we do is the Jewish identity work, and the Jewish identity work is done through the lens of Zionism, right? We're a people, we're one. But yeah, listen, we have our students who are now being called Zionist supremacist.
Right.
Great. Yes, I am. I strongly believe, or we strongly teach, that Zionism is a Jewish liberation movement, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And our students are, they're fired by it. They're excited about it. Teenagers love to fight, so let's give them a good fight that they can actually be proud to participate in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just debated this guy named Amir Zaher, and he uses that term supremacism a lot. And just on a legal and historical and plain definitional discussion, nationalism is always a type of supremacism, but that's not the right word. It just means local peoples have self-determination over their lands, and that's called the birth of nations. That's called national self-determination. It means that tribes live in their lands and that they belong to their lands and their lands belong to them. And that's where they have their culture and their calendar and their language. And so this term supremacism, it's a cudgel. It's just the thing they hit you with. But there's nothing supremacist about Japan on the Japanese island, or the Hungarians in Hungary, or the French in France. That's nationalism. There's something beautiful about the return of peoples to their ancestral lands, and that's a big word out there. But how do your young people, the young people that Club Z is touching, like have they been when they get called these names, like how do they respond to that? How do they know how to be like, it's not supremacism, it's nationalism. That's a beautiful thing, especially in America, especially in Northwestern, on the California North. How do you know how to answer these things?
Well, listen, we have to remember that we do live in a progressive society. No matter yes, Florida was great. I didn't need to explain to Floridians what Zionism is. But, even the word nationalism, right, has bad connotations.
Right.
So
Exactly.
a lot of work is done on unpacking what does it mean to be a nation. And this is why Club Z it's a big commitment for anybody to join, because we're doing a big job that, unfortunately, again, I don't want to be, like, oh, we're doing such a good job and everybody else isn't. But everybody else isn't, because if Jews in America still think that Judaism is a religion in 2022, that means we have failed our Jewish education.
Mm-hmm.
And if Jews in America still think and call Israel an apartheid state, we could do talking points until we're blue in the face, but it's not going to help us. We need to raise a generation after generation of Jews who understand that you cannot take Zionism out of a Jew, right? That, like, you cannot say, oh, I'm a Jew, but I'm not a Zionist. That's like, it's an oxymoron. Or now we have a new movement, people of color. So now we have Jews of color. What does that mean? Am I white? I'm a Jew. Jews are not white. So stop separating us. Stop doing this. We're doing it to ourselves.
So I hear, and I of course know you very well for many years, but I also hear a bit of a Russian accent, and that Russian accent is because you're a product of the former Soviet Union. That's where you were born, like my parents, like my family as well. And one of the things that Russian Jews know very well, and is just part of the Russian Jewish ethos, and it's really part of the Russian ethos, which is there are ethnicities, there are groups, and Jews are an ethnic group called Jews.
Correct.
Like there's Tatars, and then there's Jews.
In my Soviet passport, it was my name, right? My date of birth and nationality, Jew. So, it's hard for Russian Jews. For Russian Jews, it's very easy to understand.
Right. But in America, you're not taught that you're a peoplehood. And if your skin color happens to be whitish, you're kind of lopped in. When I was a little kid, not a little kid, when I just got to America and first taking standardized tests, I remember that they would be like, "Are you white Caucasian?" And I would be like, "Other." I always wrote other as a kid. I never even asked my parents. I wrote other, and I used to write Hebrew Semite. Okay.
Nice.
That was the way. I was like, no, I'm not a Caucasian. I don't know anything about the Caucasus. I'm not from the Caucasus. I'm from Judea, right? But again, back to American Jews, they are taught that Judaism is a religion, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just had Shabbat lunch with a few young couples, and for them it was a revelation. Like, oh, Judaism is not a religion? I'm like, oh my gosh, let's talk about it. So it's a matter of education, but it's also a matter of connecting, right? And that's another reason why who galvanized the community this past May and hosted, pro-Israel rallies when Israel was getting shelled by Hamas rockets. It was, for the most part, was Russian Jews, because we are still very much, we have relatives, we have friends in Israel. It's not just something out there. It is very much part of our everyday life. Mm-hmm. And we're not confused. We're not, there's no confusion.
Although I've heard that even Russian Jews complain that their children growing up in America have been and I know many strong Zionist, nationalist, conservative American Russian Jews whose children have become taken up by progressivism, and therefore the narrative of occupation, apartheid, colonialism, and these narratives that are anti-Israel that are fomented in the progressive world.
Listen, nobody's immune to it unless you take a vaccination. I'm sorry. I know it's a controversial term lately, but the way I used to describe Club Z all those years ago is that we are the vaccine. We will help your child understand all these terminologies, understand when somebody says from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. This is a call of genocide. This is a call for destruction of the Jewish people, nothing else, right? But if a Jewish kid goes to a Jewish day school and then high school and then a youth movement, and all they talk about are, cherry tomatoes and Innovation Nation, and great, yes, to all of that, but that's not the conversation they're having on college campus or in their classrooms now in high school and sometimes in middle school. They're having conversations about Edward Said's work of Orientalism, of, colonialism, white supremacists, like all of these things. And we are the worst parents in the history of the world because we're sending our kids to a battleground naked. We don't give them any skills. We don't give them any armor. We give them nothing. We give them just keep your head down, go to Hillel for Shabbat dinner, and come home for, a Seder. And it's that's not going to work. You need to give them tools. You need to give them knowledge. And the most important, you need to create the network. You need to create the community. So when something happens on one college campus, they have a whole bunch of their friends on other college campuses that could help them.
Right. Now, where does Judaism, yes, fit into this thing? Like, where does Shabbat or prayer or the commandments that we received at Sinai, like where does that fit into Club Z and this moment of the attack of progressivism? Is that the right word, by the way? Progressivism? Do you agree with that word? Is that the right? But where does Judaism fit into Zionism and the education that Club Z is giving?
Do you mean religious observance and practices?
Judaism, like Shabbat. Okay, can we and the Shabbat is a great example. Just where does that fit into the ethos of what you're trying to teach these young people?
So the way we approach it is, we are a people, we come from Abraham, and we have a long line. I have to tell you, we don't do a lot of quote unquote religious education or ritual, just because we have such limited time that we, if I could run a Zionist school, right, full-time school, it'll be there. But we do Shabbat dinners. We do Havdalah if we meet on Saturday night. We do, I pick obscure Jewish holidays, obscure for American Jews, like Tu B'Shvat and Lag BaOmer, because they're not heavily celebrated here. And I consider them very Zionist holidays. And so we bring the Jewish ritual that way.
Very good. Okay, I understand what you're saying. It's just how hard is it for young people out there? Like tell me about the young people that come, the teenagers that come to be part of Club Z. Is it for them to overcome a hurdle, or have they been looking for an answer and this is the answer that they're looking for? Or is there like a reticence to now say, yes, I'm a Zionist. I am a Jew. I'm a proud Jewish Judean, and I think Jews have rights in these places.
Well, they get there after they've been to Club Z for a year or two. Mm-hmm. But most of them come because something happened to them at school, and they're looking for something. They're looking to connect with somebody, or they don't want to feel so alone. Large portion of our kids come from Russian Jewish families, and we parent differently than American Jews or even Israelis. We don't ask our teenagers if they want to do something. We tell our teenagers that they're going to do something. And so that's how a lot of kids come to Club Z, and then they stay. Pretty much 9 out of 10 kids that comes to Club Z because their parents made them, they'll stay. But I'll give you one example. So we made sweatshirts, hoodies, and on the front of a hoodie, we have an image of Israel. It's 4 inches, just an outline of Israel. And it says Israel on it, because I want it to be very clear, right? And we have a 9th grader that goes, she does rowing. She's on a team for rowing. So After the practice, she puts on her hoodie, getting ready to leave. And her teammate comes and he goes, "Oh, is this Israel?" "Yes." This is a very controversial image. Are you a Zionist? Right? So he was harassing her for months.
Wow.
Until, are you a supremacist? Did you know that Israeli soldiers kill Arab babies? We're practically eating Arabs, for breakfast. That's what kids are facing. We have another student, she's an 11th grader. And in December, her teacher, it was a U.S. history class, and the teacher said, I quote to you, Kristallnacht was a battle that spurred, Kristallnacht was a battle in Germany that spurred American military action in World War II. This is a history class. This is a teacher who is teaching. So, what does she do? Through series of various conversations, emails, demands, she gave a class period to our student to teach them about Holocaust and about Israel, right? And so that's what kids are facing. It's actually unbelievable.
So, Masha, I just want to tell you that on my Facebook page, I have, and we are live also on my Facebook page, and I have quite a few anti-Israel folks, haters, and I keep them on and I don't get rid of them because I actually want people to see what people face. And so right now this recurring kind of anti-Israel person named Eva writes, most of you Zios, now this is term Zios is this kind of a funky new term as though the word Zionist is some kind of negative term for us. So you say Zios, like you're Jerusalemites, like, okay. Zionism it's not, there's nothing negative about that. It's like calling me sweetie. Most of you Zios come from USA, Russia, etc., not Abraham. So there's an immediate denial of our heritage, of our peoplehood. The Palestinian people are the descendants from Jews in Jesus's time, which is a replacement theology type language, which is to say that the Palestinians, which is a very brand new a grouping of a renamed grouping of Arabs today, most of which came in the last 100 years. Now these people are the real Jews. They're the descendants. So Zios are actually killing their own people. Now, not only that, but there's the blood libel accusation of murder against Palestinians, which is simply not true. There have been more people murdered in inner city Detroit than in the whole Arab-Israeli conflict in 2021. Meaning to say, I just compared that because I happened to look up in my debate, and I looked up how many people were being murdered in inner city Detroit because I was debating this guy Ahmed Amr Zahir. In any case, this Eva is exactly the kind of hate and lies and blood libel that young people face and that I face on my page. I keep her stuff and other people's stuff like that on my page in order so that people see what we're really facing. And I'm really glad that Eva took the time to write some more of her hate speech here. But that's exactly what people are facing. What do you think about what she says?
Honestly, I love it. Eva, so let's do this. Yes, let's do a DNA test, right? And test. So who are some of the Arabs that live right now in what we call Palestine? Oh, oops, they're ethnically Jews who've lived there for thousands of years, who were then forcibly converted into Islam. But if you look on their homes, they still have holes from mezuzahs. So yes, yes, Eva, let's talk about that. Also, let's talk about where does the word Palestine comes from. I'm sorry, what? Oh, Arab colonialists who renamed it because they couldn't stand the Jews? Eva, sit down. Learn your history, please.
Okay. Interesting. With regarding to you and I have,
should also come. Palestinians are not Arabs. Yes, traditionally Palestinians are Jews. My grandma was called Palestinian because that's what Jews were called until half a second ago. But no, Eva, Arabs are now co-opted and they want to be called Palestinians.
I just want to say hi to a lot of my friends that are coming from all over the place. We got Eminence who has the cool Israeli flag. Thank you very much. And we have Stacy, who says, freezing cold and snowing in Michigan. We have our good friend Erica, all the way from Sweden. Erica, haven't heard from you in a while. God bless you. And Lou says, nationalism is a good thing. It was given a bad name by the evil Nazis. But of course, Nazis were not nationalists. They were imperialists, right? They wanted to grab land, not to live in their own ancestral land. And so that's a big difference. Patrice says, hello from Utah. And Yelena says, hello from South Florida with love. Yelena, one of our folks. God bless you, Yelena. It's good to hear from you. My good friend Johan Bilu George says, Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi. It's good to see you guys. It's good to see you. Okay, let's start wrapping up. But before we do, let's just talk about the conference. You had some really good folks at the conference. You had Ryan Belarus, who's a native American, what you would call it, but sometimes they call themselves American Indian. And you also had Yosef Haddad, who's an Israeli Arab or Israeli Christian Arab speaking. So you had all kinds of folks who are coming to a love of Israel and Zionism from different perspectives. Tell me about the conference and how it went, and what was the highlight?
Oh my God, the conference was absolutely amazing. First of all, it was the first time these teens got together in person. We had over 100 teens from all over the country, and it really brought everybody together. So we had Yosef Haddad, who spoke about the fact that he is unabashedly, pro-Israel Arab, who, almost lost his life fighting for his country, right? And he's very proud of that fact. And he's a living, example of, what apartheid, what are you talking about? And then we had Ryan Belarus from Métis tribe. And it was, I always bring Ryan because he is just, who better can explain that Jews are from Judea, that we're an indigenous people that belong to our ancestral homeland, than another indigenous person who is still fighting to go back to his ancestral homeland.
Right.
We also had Richard Kemp, which is just an absolute treasure of an ally for the Jewish people.
Right. Richard Kemp, of course, British colonel who served in Afghanistan and many other places, and writes vociferously for Jewish rights and against the apartheid narrative. He just had an article in Gatestone, a very important article about the KGB collusion with the Palestinian movement to create the apartheid narrative. Very important.
Right. And we also had Pastor Dumisani Washington, who wrote a book about Blacks in America and Zionism and connection of Israel to Africa, and what an important role Israel has played to the various states in Africa. Mm-hmm. And so it was just really great for the teens to see all these amazing people who are not even Jews, who are doing their part of stepping up and speaking up and being unafraid. And the whole theme was really, we can't afford anymore to just learn and to be knowledgeable. We need an army of activists. We need an army of advocates who are going to be on the ground, calling out their teachers, calling out their classmates, calling out the administrators, and being extremely, just being proud of who you are. Being proud of who you are also demands you to be unafraid. And the big theme was, it's time to speak up. And I tell the teens, you have to understand, you are not defending Israel. Israel does not need a little Sam or a little Sarah to defend Israel. Israel can take care of Israel. What you need to understand is that when Israel is attacked, it's the Jews who are getting attacked. So if you consider yourself part of the Jewish people, you have to understand, if they could attack you, they will, right? The hostage synagogue taking, right? He didn't go anywhere else. He went to the Jews.
Right.
So it is attack against not Israel, it's attack against the Jews. So have the self-dignity and self-respect to call it out and to defend yourself and defend your brothers and sisters.
Very good, very good. And also, we have more of our Russian Jewish connection. We have Zelig Krimko saying, sending love to both of you from the Catskill Mountains. God bless you, my friend Zelig. And Erica from Sweden says, Toda Yishai, so true. I wasn't on the lives, but I've heard all the podcasts. Blessings. God bless you, Erica. And thank you so much for being part of it. And I want to thank you so much, Masha, for what you're doing with Club Z. I think it's mucho importante, okay? And I want everybody to check out clubz.org and start sending your kids or your friends' kids to a movement that will give them their pride back and give them their strength. Of course, together with, it's like it comes together, right? There's like Zionism, there's Judaism. It's all part of a pretty complex identity. And the fullest name of it all is Israel. That's like our super name. When we get together and we are part of our land, we're part of our heritage, we peel off the shirt and it says Israel, okay? Right. That's the Jewish people reborn in our land. And an ancient promise coming true, and a peoplehood that has survived through thick and thin and through the Holocaust to be re-embodied in our land in our time. Masha, thank you so much. Club Z, looking forward to the conference. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit jealous when I looked at the playlist. I was like, oh, I wish I was there also. Maybe God will be kind to me.
2023, right. February 15th through 17th. You're going to be there.
There's a lot to share with the help of God. Thank you very much. And God bless you. And thank you very much, Masha. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleisher Show. And there are great folks out there who take steps to be courageous and to get things done. I know you're part of it if you're listening to this show. And thank you for being a lover of Israel all over the world, of course, here in Israel, but around the world as well. Thank you so much. And it's so wonderful to be on this fabulous platform and connected to people around the world. Please visit my coffee page if you want to buy me a cup of coffee. It's really easy. It's buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. It's a great way to support the show. Check out our podcast, which is the Yishai Fleisher Israel podcast, every single week. And this week, of course, Masha was on, but we'll also have the Torah section, so you can get through the Torah portion with lots of interesting laws. And of course, Malkah Fleisher will be joining us. So great ladies, great fighters on the show today. The catch-all website is yishaifleisher.com, and it's got everything that you may need. And I want to thank Moshe Herman, Yocheved, Tabitha, Ben Bresky, and Lou for helping the show get out to the net waves on the internet and connecting with you wherever you are. And of course, we always like to thank Hashem, God Almighty, for the blessing of living in this great time of rebirth. And outside of this window right now is beautiful, huge flakes of snow in Judea. Fabulous. Check out on the Facebook page below this program on a post earlier on, me and Malkah in the snow, just having a great time out there. So thank you, Hashem, for you know who's really thanking you, Hashem? The grapevines, because they love the snow, they love the frost. There's going to be great wine from the land of Israel. So, all right, folks, God bless you. Thank you so much. David Ziman says, great stuff. Thank you, David. And great stuff right back to you. More great stuff is on the way. Stay tuned, stay strong, stay connected, and shalom. All right, folks, we're back here on the Yishai Fleisher Show, and it's season 2022, episode 4. And, of course, when we say 2022, we also mean 5782 for the Jewish year, but for the sake of tracking it, the sake of marking it, we're going to use the English date. In any case, the Torah portion is the Torah portion of Mishpatim, which has a lot of information, a lot of commandments. And many of these commandments are kind of like the 10 commandments being spoken out more fully and more particularly. And there's a lot to learn here that's like, it's beyond the scope of our show today to go through all of it, but there is a lot that we should talk about. And I'm going to talk about one thing which is a little bit philosophical, really. It's actually about the case of murder. The Torah says in Parshat Mishpatim, it said, Ki yazid ish al re'ehu, if a person will act willfully or will plan willfully against his fellow, lahargo, to kill him, be'orma, with like guile, mi'im mizbechi tikacheno lamut. From my altar you should take him to die. From my altar you should take him to die. What does that mean? One explanation is that that judges should not judge murder case and capital case and put people to death unless there's actually a temple. And in some deep way, you can understand that. If God's presence is in this world, then there's wisdom in this world. This wisdom means that we can judge people correctly. God's wisdom will help us judge correctly, and then you can put somebody to death for a wrongful act only if there's a temple extant in our time. That's one of the opinions about that verse. Another opinion states that explains what does it mean. It means that if somebody does, this verse means that if somebody does a case of murder which is not through negligence, but through malice aforethought, then they could not get, you're not allowed to get the reprieve, the stay of execution that you could get if you hold on to the corners of the altar. If you hold on to the corners of the altar, you can like stay there indefinitely, and it's called a respite. It's called a sanctuary. So if you hold on, now if you are a murderer, a willful murderer, you don't get to use that. You don't get to use that privilege. It's not given to you because you killed in cold blood, as we say, and so therefore you cannot use that privilege of holding on to the corners of the altar. And I want to add a philosophical point to this, which is the following. A murderer can claim, and you hear claims like this all the time, it's part of my nature, or in a more religious context, God created the world like this, and he's the one that made me into a murderer. Moreover, do you think that a life can be lost? Somebody could lose their life if God didn't will it? We have a Mishnah that says that Hillel saw a skull floating, and he said, you drowned others, and so somebody drowned you. And those who drowned you, they will be drowned. And so a murderer can claim, listen, there's a God's justice in this world. You don't have to kill me. You don't have to you don't have to have legal action against me, because instead let God handle these things. And the only reason that the other guy died is because God decided it. So God says, in a case where you can establish that this person had malice aforethought, take him to be killed from my sanctuary. Meaning to say, I want you to enact justice in this world. And not only does it say sanctuary, it actually says, take him from my mizbeach. And from my mizbeach could be from my zavuach. I allowed in this world people to have freedom. And yes, this guy killed this other guy. And maybe there is even a heavenly reason for it. But you people, you, humanity down in this world, you must enact justice. You must have courts of justice. And so if you've identified a guy who's with malice aforethought, you could make a philosophical claim saying, it's God's world and he decides what's right and wrong and who lives and who dies. And you could say there shouldn't be any human justice. So God says, no, I expect you to enact human justice, this worldly justice, and not expect me to do everything. I'm telling you, I'm giving you the green light that from my sanctuary, from my altar, you could take a guy to be executed. I expect you to keep justice in this world. So that's one important thought, and a similar thought to that, but for the point of healing, comes only a few verses later, where it talks about something else. It says, if men quarreled and a man strikes his fellow with a stone or a fist and he does not die but falls into bed, if he gets up and goes outside under his own power, the one who struck him is absolved. He has to pay. Only for the lost time shall he pay, and he shall certainly heal him. Right? Meaning to say he can pay for the healing. And paying for the healing means paying for doctors. And paying for doctors means that there's a right in this world for doctors to heal. Well, of course there is, right? Well, think about it. Some people say, why should you get involved in healing? That's something that God does. So God says, Verapo yirapeh, he shall be healed, and you should pay for that healing, meaning to say that God, say about doctors, I give them the right to also heal and to fight for life. Even though I may have judged that this person in a karmic way should get this punishment, you're definitely allowed to heal him. So just as you're allowed to kill a person who's done a criminal act, so too are you allowed to heal. And so God says, I'm giving you space in this world to enact justice and to heal the sick and to be involved in creation and to be involved in the establishment. And think about those two buildings. the court of justice and the hospital. Those are things that we very much depend on to keep society running smoothly. The hospital and the court. These are two factories. That's not the word I'm looking for. These are two machines, institutions that keep our world on even keel. They keep it whole. They keep it moving in the right direction. If not, people would be if we wouldn't have medicine and trying to heal people, then the world would be given to the natural forces, and the natural forces would run amok. God says, I give you strength over the natural forces. And so too, I give you strength over societal forces by having courts of law. And this is a very important part of this Torah portion. Another aspect of this Torah portion is that God tells us that he hears prayers. And what kind of prayers and cries out does he hear? Especially those of the widow and the orphan. Okay? He says, Kol almana v'yatom lo ta'anun. All the widows and the orphans, don't cause pain to them. Imano ta'aneoto. If you hurt him, kim tza'oki tzakilai. If he indeed will cry out to me, shamoa eshma tzakato. I will indeed surely hear his cry. V'charapi, and my anger will flare up. V'aragti etchem becharev. I will kill you with the sword. V'yu neshechem almanot. Your wives will be widows. Ubanechem yotumim, and your sons will be orphans. Why does God say this? One is to teach us the importance of loving the widow and the orphan. And the other is this very, very important principle that God says, there is a system that I've put into this world. And when I have Rav Mike Foyer, he doesn't like when I use this term, but I still think it's an applicable term, which is there's a karmic system in this world. When you do evil, it comes back to you. When you do good, it comes back to you even more. And there's a kindness and that is repaid, and an evil that is repaid. And if you hurt my widows and my orphans, then that's exactly what's going to come to you, and you're going to feel that pain. And so be aware of this system in this world that is it's karmic. That's the way the world works, and that's why Hillel, the great rabbi, said to the guy who came to him and said, "Can you teach me Torah on one foot?" He says, "Don't do others what you wouldn't want done unto you." That's a very basic principle, which is if you do unto others what you don't want to be done unto you, that's exactly what's going to happen to you, and vice versa. And another good way of thinking about it is do unto others what you would like to have things done unto you. Think about creating a world which you would like for yourself, and that'll be created around you. And there's so much more in this incredible Torah portion. Another verse that I think is very important. It says, and this is chapter 22, verse 27. Elohim lo tekalel. Do not curse a judge. V'nasi ba'amcha lo ta'or. And a leader amongst your people you shall not curse. So on the one hand, I'm like, oh my God, the Jews, we are constantly giving our leaders such a hard time. That's a mistake. And on the other hand, it says, the rabbis explain, when you say v'nasi ba'amcha lo ta'or, a leader amongst your people you should not curse, it should be a nasi a leader who does ma'aseh amcha. He does the actions of your peoplehood. If he does stuff outside of your peoplehood, if he does, like, for example, tries to give away the land of Israel to your enemies, then you are much more free to curse him. But if he's one of your people, one of your good people, be careful how you speak about him in public. Let's keep going. There's, as I said before, there's a lot. For example, it says about kosher food. It says, you shall eat kosher food. You're not allowed to eat something like that died in the field. So God says, "V'anshe kodesh tiyuli, be for me a holy people. Ubasar basadeh trefa lo tochelu. You shall not eat flesh of an animal that was torn in the field. To the dog you shall throw it. You're a human being, a high human being, and I want you to be holy unto me. The thing that should eat a dead animal in the field, that's a dog. Okay, there's a place for that. There's a place for things to be eaten that have died. There's levels of things, but you're not on that level. I want you to know to distinguish between levels. And yes, a dog's life is also important. And also the eating of that animal should not be wasted. There's a dog that should eat it, but you shall not eat it. And at the same time, don't think that just because you're holy, then your dog should be perfectly holy. No. Remember that there are levels of things, and I've set out the world with levels, and you're a certain level. You need to be a holy people unto me. This Torah portion also has reiteration of the mitzvah to come up to Jerusalem 3 times a year. Shalosh pamim b'shana yira'eh kol zechucha et pnei Adon Adonai. 3 times a year shall all of your male folks see the face of the Lord Hashem. Very powerful thing. And then Hashem says to us, He says, I'm sending Hine anochi sholech malach lefanecha. I'm sending an angel before you. L'shamrecha b'derech u'levicha el hamakom asher achinoti. To protect you on the way and to bring you to the place which I have prepared. Hishamer mepanav v'shma b'kolo. Beware of him, hearken to his voice, do not rebel against him, for he will not forgive your willful sin, for my name is within him. And then Hashem says, that the angel is going to go in front of us and destroy those nations that want to stop us. When you get there, lo taseh kemasem, don't do like they did. Ki hares tarsem, you should destroy their practices, and you shall smash their pillars. V'shaver teshaber matzavotem, smash their pillars. And if you do that, v'avatem et Hashem Elokechem, you shall serve Hashem your God. Uvarech et lachmecha, He will bless your bread, vet meimecha, and your water. V'asiroti machala mikirbecha, and I'll get rid of all sickness from within you. You understand how central this Torah portion is, and he also lays out the borders of the big borders of the land of Israel. V'shati et gvulecha miyam suf. I will make you set your borders from the Sea of Reeds to the Sea of the Philistines. That's the Mediterranean. So from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. Umimidbar, and from the desert, probably the Sinai desert or the Saudi desert, more likely the Saudi desert. Excuse the Sinai desert. Ad Hanahar, until the river. That's the Euphrates. Ki eten biadchem et yoshvei haaretz. I will give the dwellers of the land in your hand. V'gerashtemo mipanecha. And you got to get rid of them from before you. Lo tichot lahem uleelohehem brit. Do not make a covenant with them or with their gods. Lo yishvu be'artzecha. They shall not sit in your land. Pen yachtiu otcha, for they will bring you to sin. They will make you sin to me, to God. Ki ta'avodat Elohehem, because you'll end up serving their gods. Ki yelecha lemokesh, and it'll be a snare for you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us to be very careful not to let the people of the land sway you towards their ways. Much better to get rid of them. Do not cut any deals with them, because when you cut deals with them, you end up cutting deals with their God as well, right? And that's 100% true. Look at today with the Palestinians, and we've cut deals with them, given them chunks of our land, and then we also allow their worship to take place in the land, and this worship is one which is, now some people say it's not idolatrous, but on the other hand, there's a death cult there. And that death cult is one that is anti-Jewish, anti-God of Israel, and anti-life. And so the Torah knows what it's talking about. And finally, in the Torah portion, right towards the end, it talks about how Moshe, Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu, and the 70 elders came close to Mount Sinai, and they saw something, a vision of God. They saw God of Israel, and under his feet was something made of white sapphire, and it was like the essence of the heaven in purity. And God allowed them to see him on that level. And it says, against the great men of the children of Israel, he did not stretch out his hand. They saw God, and they ate and drank. And some people say that this was indeed, they were going to get a punishment later on for looking too familiarly at God. That's such a tight problem that we have, which is on the one hand, the greatest men also peer at God too closely, and they could get punished for that. May Hashem help us find the right balance of looking at God, knowing to do his will, not being overly familiar with the enemies of Israel, wait, how do I want to say this? I want to pose this dichotomy. With the folks that we're supposed to be less familiar with, we're too familiar, and which is the enemies of Israel, and with the thing that we're supposed to be less familiar with and more treat with awe and reverence, which is God, we are too familiar. Wait, is that the opposite there? I guess, right. I guess we're too familiar with both of those things, and we should push back against that kind of familiarity. We should not allow the other names of gods, the competitors to the God of Israel, to be present in this small land. He doesn't want you to go around the world attacking it, but in this small land, he wants you to give him the space to be liberal with our God. And at the same time, while we give him the space to be here, we have to be careful about how we treat his honor. The Torah portion is Mishpatim, and it's been a pleasure to be with you here on the Land of Israel Network. The Yishai Fleisher Show. I want to thank Yocheved Seidman, Moshe Herman, Ben Bresky, Tabitha, and Lou for being part of the show. I want to thank my guests Masha and Malkah, Malkah Fleisher and Masha from Club Z for being on the show with me today. I want to urge you to please visit my website, YishaiFleisher.com. Check out the articles, videos, and other podcasts. And also go to, if you want to donate to some of our big projects, then just go to YishaiFleisher.com and hit the donate page there. It makes a big difference. And if you want to make a small donation to be part of the show and to help, you can make it into a big donation by buying a lot of coffee, and some people do that. But you go to buymeacoffee.com/Yishai, and your support makes a huge difference. I'm looking out at the beautiful snow over the land of Israel, and there's a lot of fog. There's a cloud over this land right now, and that cloud is the cloud of revelation. As I said before, you can't be too familiar with God. And he keeps himself at a bit of a distance. At the same time, he is revealing himself through the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. And you are a part of it wherever you are. Remember that. Believe that. You are part of a great time and a great return and a great moment and a great blessing and a great revelation. So God bless you. Thank you very much. Write me an email, Yishai@YishaiFleisher.com. Please, God, help me get back my IQ points after COVID. Well, let's all of us become a little bit smarter and a little bit more ready to come to the land of Israel as the borders open up. We all miss you and love you around here, and may Hashem open up his borders to his Temple Mount and to his third temple. God bless you. Stay tuned, stay connected, stay strong, and shalom.
Choose wisely what we plant in our minds. Choose life, and let's make this week a work of art. It's why we're here.
Last week on the Land of Israel Fellowship, we discussed the Judean inner ways, the biblical GPS system for your soul.
In the name of this fellowship, and in the name of all of Israel, as a testimony to the power you have invested in this global community, trying to fulfill your vision of a house of prayer for all nations, for all believers.
Join Jeremy Gimpel and Aryeh Abramowitz for this exclusive study group live every Sunday on Zoom. To join the Land of Israel Fellowship, click on thelandofisrael.com/fellowship.